Okay, so this time we're going to talk a little bit about how to create a tree from scratch. And, if there's something that a consultant lives in fear of, a new consultant, it's usually running into a patron who doesn't have a tree. And now what do I do? And so we're going to walk you through that and talk a little bit about the basics, the basic things of FamilySearch that help us to create a tree and the process to go about this. So this could be for you assisting a patron, or it could be for yourself if you don't have a tree in FamilySearch. These would be the steps that you would logically go through. So where can you get more help? Okay, well, one of the things is when you go into FamilySearch and you're a new member to FamilySearch, you've just signed in for the first time, you've just gotten your account, they'll have a how do you want to get started link right there on the home page. If you don't see that and you want to be able to enjoy it, all you have to do is just go right, put in your URL bar, familysearch.org/getting started. There's also an excellent article over in the blog. You can go to the very bottom of any page in FamilySearch and click on blog, and you could probably just type in simple start family history, and it'll bring up that blog article, or there's the link for it. And of course, you'll be able to get a copy of this presentation and also the PDF of the slides if you want them afterwards. Okay, in addition to this, the Help Center has all kinds of articles for helping you get started. And you find that by going to the little question mark icon up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. It has a circle around it over by where your name is. Click on that, and then the drop down, click on Help Center, and then ask your question, and you'll get all kinds of articles and videos. You could put in there like, how do I start my tree? And they'll pull up all the things that they have for you. So there are several different ways to get things. Okay, FamilySearch Family Tree is kind of unique. It's different than most places because it's a one tree for all experience. We focus on know my tree, even though sometimes we say my pedigree or my tree. We really understand it's not like at Ancestry, excuse me, where you really do have your own tree. You have a shared tree. Collaboration is the key to working in this tree. I had a long conversation this week with a user of the tree that went in and didn't understand how to collaborate properly and really messed up my part of the tree. And so we had a little back and forth, and she now understands a little bit better how to function within the tree. This is not an easy thing. So we're going to actually have a class later this year on collaboration. But working together as a community allows us to grow this tree to gigantic proportions. This tree actually has about 1.6 billion people in it and grows by several million people every month. It's a gigantic process. And the goal in the tree is to have one person have one record. In other words, no duplicates of the people. And that's the big problem that we have. Okay, duplicates. Why are there duplicates there? Well, the records came into this tree from many different sources. So to begin with, we started a tree with a bunch of duplicates, and they never have gone away, partly because new patrons come along and they feel like, well, I've never been in this tree before, so therefore my people aren't there. I need to add them all in. And so we still have people to this day that are adding names in there and not going through the process of checking them against what's already in tree and just marking that, yeah, they need to be added instead of really looking. And so we get more duplicates that way. And then sometimes we just create them as we're working in tree and don't realize that there is a duplicate out there. So they come along, they don't always go away. It seems like you would think eventually we'd run out of duplicates, but we don't, unfortunately. Merging is a process to get rid of the duplicates, and it's the thing that probably most people are afraid of. And you really shouldn't be, because there's really nothing you can do that can't be undone. You may not be able to undo it, but there's surely somebody out there that can help you to fix it. In merging, you select a record that you want to keep. Usually if there's two people that are the same person, you keep the one that has the most information, and you move from the one that doesn't have all the information, anything that is of value, to put on the good record, the keeper. And then after you're through moving all the things that you want to keep out of that one record that we call the duplicate, we archive or delete that record. It's not really deleted. It says it's deleted. The true nature of it is really archived, so that it's not in the system anymore for people to pull up and things like that, unless they happen to know the ID number. And the system will automatically move over from that duplicate, the one that's being deleted, all the sources that were on it and all the memories that were attached to it. And they now become part of the new record that's been created, or the record that's being kept from this merge. Okay, the living and the dead, we have to understand that. It's interesting, the missionaries, the support missionaries, have been told just recently not to call the living records private spaces anymore for whatever reason. So we'll just call them living records. And the living records are a strange character in tree, in that they're only viewable by the person that creates the record. That causes a lot of confusion. Husband will go in and he won't be able to see, like, say, his wife's parents. And the wife can't see the husband's parents if they're alive. And the reason for that is that only the living records that you have associated to you are viewable by you. And if you would look closely, you'd find that the record for you, the ID that you see for you, isn't even the same ID as the one your spouse sees, because we have to have a private record, a separate record for the living people, for each person that's going to view them. You may think that's very illogical or messy, but that's okay. The thing is, it's providing privacy for people, and there's all kinds of rules around the world of privacy. So FamilySearch tried to create a private situation that would work for everywhere.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Real quick. What happens? Let's just say, so my mother is on there, and so like you say, there's a different number for me seeing her as opposed to my husband. When she passes away and I put a death date in there, does then it immediately become public? Do you know like how that works?
Yeah, if you put a death date in a living record, it then becomes a public record.
Okay, like then.
Yeah, okay. And at that point, you'll be able to merge it with any other record of hers that has a death date. So like those of us that are members of the church, our primary record will become viewable as soon as the ward clerk marks us as deceased, and the membership record tells FamilySearch, and FamilySearch adds it to the record in tree. That record becomes viewable.
So if I like uploaded pictures and memories and things to some of my living aunts and uncles, once they pass away and I put a death date, everybody else can see some of those things that I've uploaded, pictures and memories and such.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay, and then the records for the dead, anybody can see. Okay, and this is where we see the duplicates that are out there that need to be merged. And our goal is to try to make just one for everybody and make it as clean a tree as we possibly can do. Okay, so basically this is what we have to do to build a tree. You get to start with you add your living family, and then you connect to your deceased family if they're in tree, or you add your deceased family until you can connect them to the other deceased members of your family, and voila, you have a tree. So we're going to walk through that, but we need to start where we need to really start, which is our homework. When you approach this project, you really want to do some things. First thing is write down everything you can remember about your family. Names, dates, places, relationships. It doesn't matter on the living too much as far as having a lot of specifics, because nobody's going to be able to see a living record except the person that's creating it. So it doesn't have to be completely filled out and full names and dates and places and stuff like that, because it's really just kind of like a placeholder. You want to gather all your documents, pictures, newspaper clippings, anything you can find about the family. And then contact your living relatives and pick their brains. And that, to me, often is probably the key thing. I've never worked with a patron yet that is starting a tree from scratch that we don't make at least 2, 3, 4, or 5 calls to family members to get more information while we're working. That's usually because we haven't done a very good job of homework. Our real goal is to extend our tree back before 1940 for here in the US right now until April 1st, when the 1950 census will be released. Because if we can get them back to the 1940 census, we can usually continue using sources and records. We can carry the family farther back. Now, for some of us, 1940 is just about where we are. But a lot of our patrons are much younger, and they could have 2 or 3 generations before you get to the 1940 census. And so it's sometimes quite a bit of work just to get back to there. But that's kind of our goal, is to get back to those records that we can start referring to, because then things become a lot easier. Okay, so you have to have an account, which is of course free. Anybody can have one. And it's only going to ask for a little bit of information. This is the basic create an account page. Of course, there's more to it. You have to put in a username and password and a screen name and things like that. But basically, you're only going to be providing your name, your full birth date, whether you're male or female. And if you're a member, you're going to have to provide your membership number, which you can get off of Recommend or out of Tools or from your ward clerk. But you will need your membership number to be able to take advantage of doing temple work and seeing the temple ordinances on people. Once you've filled that out and click continue, it'll send a message to you, and you'll reply to it so that it knows it's functioning okay. And at that point, it's going to say, congratulations or thank you. Sign in and get started. And so you're going to go and sign in, and you'll need to formally sign in and then click on the family tree to begin your tree journey. So here's the sign in screen. And one thing I want to mention is please, 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 please have the patron write down their username and password somewhere so they don't forget it, because that is the single biggest problem support missionaries have, is helping people recover their passwords. So make sure that you bring that subject up. And if it's your own device, when you sign in, it's okay to say, keep me signed in. You don't want to do that if you're at the Family History Center or somewhere like that. Okay, so We need to learn the basic tools that we're going to use. And there's 3 of them when we're in Family Search that we're going to need to learn to use. One's the pedigree chart, which shows you your pedigree, your ancestry. And this is the standard looking one. I prefer to use the fan chart. And when we get into it, you're going to see either this version or the fan chart version most of the time. But it's a way to track your family through time. The other tool we use is the family group sheet, and it looks a lot different in Family Search. This happens to be the immediate family for Benjamin Carter, his wife and children. They'll also be on the same page where that was, right next to it, his parental family, where it'll show his parents and his siblings with him in it. So you actually see 2 versions of family group sheets. One with the person as a spouse and one as a child. And then the other page that we spend a lot of time on in Family Search is the person page. And on the person page, we find those family members. We also find all the vital information for the person and the linkage to get us to be able to do different things with this person's record. So it helps to kind of review this with the patron so they're aware of the different screens that we're going to work with. Okay, so let's get started. This is what the screen looks like currently, or at least a couple of months ago, for somebody who's never been in Family Search before, a brand new user. And you might be interested to know, I'm Rustin Lowry, if you notice the name up there. That's one of my grandchildren. And so I'm making a tree for him. And I chose that because his dad's not a member. And so his father's side of the tree is not that well fully developed. And so it'll be able to actually show you some of these steps. So when you first log in, it knows you're new. So it's saying, do you want to get started? Get started. I don't recommend you go there with the patron, because what it's going to do is going to take you to a lot of steps of different things to walk you through stuff. And we've already talked about a lot of them already, and we've already done our homework, which is part of what they're going to want you to do over there. I would prefer we go over on the other side, on the right-hand side, where it says, add your father. And so that's where we'll go. Or we can just plain go to tree, go up there where it says family tree up in the upper left corner, click on that, and then click on tree. So that's what we'll actually do. And we'll click on tree and get started. This is what a new user's tree usually looks like. And most of the youth in the church will have a tree that looks somewhat like this. They may have part of their family showing. Occasionally you'll have a child where all their family shows, but a lot of times you're going to find that they just have their name and nothing else. It's a little disconcerting. Just think about it this way, in that and I lost my train of thought. It's a little disconcerting because they don't have anything showing there, but that's all right. We'll go through and we'll add the living people. The computer has problems figuring out several generations of living people and how to connect them all together. That's where the problem comes from. Okay, so we need to get started. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back and look at our notes. So I typed up a little pedigree chart and I color coded it. And so I've got Rustin down here, which would be the equivalent of you or whoever you're doing this tree for. And then his parents, Heidi and Dustin. And then his grandparents, Russell and Denise and Bob and Barbara. And you'll notice they're all in yellow because they're living. The next generation over where I don't have yellow, these are deceased people. And this is what our goal is to work our way back to these deceased people. And even the one great-grandparent of Rustin's, since this was made, has died. So really, the whole great-grandparent's side line of the family are deceased. So what do? Okay, we're on Rustin's page. We're going to click on Add Father. And we're going to just fill in his name and nothing else, because only Rustin's going to be able to see this, or somebody that's working as his helper in this case. And so we just put in Dustin Lowry. We mark the sex and we leave it at living, and we click next, which is kind of fun because next leads us to the routine of looking for duplicates. Well, FamilySearch can't find duplicates for living people. And so that's okay. It just says, you've entered Dustin Lowry. Do you want to create that person? And so you're going to say create person, and Dustin Lowry is there. And that's all you have to do to get Dustin in there. It's not a big job. Now we need to repeat this process for all the other living people, the Rustin's spouse, and then the grandparents. And we do that over and over, and within a couple of minutes, you've got the living family tree. And there's the living family tree with all five of us showing, or excuse me, let's try that again, all 7 of us showing. And it took only a couple of minutes to do this. Okay, now comes the fun part, linking in the dead, who may or may not be in tree. So we'll just go about this one step at a time. And so we'll go up there to where Denise Frazier is. And as the line comes down from the box with Russ and Denise, that line comes out, it goes up for Russ's side of the family, and it goes down for Denise's part. So we're going to come over here and we're going to add her mother because we had information on her. So we click Add Mother, and we go in there and we add information. Her name was Norma Jean Crane. She's female, she's deceased. We had full birth and death dates and places. And as I started to type her death place, Marysville, Sonoma, Washington, I noticed that it popped up on the list down below. You always want to pick what you're trying to type, which in this case would be the Marysville, Sonoma, Washington, USA, because that is a standardized place. You want your dates to be standardized and your places to be standardized so the FamilySearch can search for them properly. And so I clicked on the thing, and that way I don't even have to type the whole thing in. I just type enough to where I can see what I need. Then I click on that and it fills it in for me. When I'm finished, I click next, and it comes up and it says you entered this information, and there are 12 possible duplicates, or possible matches, I should say. The first one's Norma Jean Hemiger, different last name, has the same birth date, and has a very similar death date, at least the beginning, 12. That's not her. Down lower in the list, though, was a very interesting one, Norma Rustin, with her birth date and death date, and the places are pretty much okay. Missouri isn't where she was born. She was really born in Ohio. And I'm sure that that's her because her father's Archie Crane and mother's Ruby, and those are her parents. And so even though the last name's wrong, this is her. And I'll have to fix that on her, but first I want to connect her. So I will click Add Match and add her into the tree. And now I have her, and you'll notice that in with that came her parents, and actually in with that came her whole pedigree, because somebody had entered her in, even though they had her name wrong. So we need to fix that. So we go in there and we click on her, and then click on person so we can go to her person page. When her person page comes up, we're going to go where her name is, and there's a little edit there. I failed to highlight it. We're going to click on that little edit, and up comes the place where her name is. And so I'll erase Ruston and put Crane there. So it says Norma Jean Crane, and give it a reason. Ruston wasn't her surname. She was born Norma Jean Crane based on personal knowledge of her daughter. That's Denise. And then I can click save. And now her name is correct. Now, are there any duplicates? That's the first thing I'm going to always want to say. Well, it says there aren't any. Right now it says there's 0, but we can search deeper by going to where it says find similar people. And I can click on there and I can look at the possibilities, and I don't see any. Joretta is, I believe, a sister, and Bobby Jean just happens to have the same middle name. And that's a totally different person also, might be part of the family somewhere. But the point is that there doesn't really appear to be any. I've looked at similar people and the possible duplicate says 0. So we're probably okay on this one. So we'll just go along our merry way.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
You notice her sister's name. Go back to that other slide. Her sister's name is C-R-A-N-E. And on one of your earlier slides, you had C-R-A-N-E, but you put
I think I spelled it wrong.
Yeah. And
okay.
The father's name is C-R-A-N-E.
Yeah, I spelled it wrong. Okay, so now look what happened when we added in Norma. We get a whole pedigree, and that's what tends to happen when you add a person in who's already connected in tree. They come with baggage. And since there's 1.6 billion people in this program, you're often going to come with quite a tree. Of course, these people all need to be checked to make sure that they're accurate, but they are there. I like this fan chart view because it allows you to see a bunch of people at one time. Okay, so now we've got that done, but we still have more work to do. So let's try adding Norma's spouse. And so we click add spouse, and we don't know as much. And so I knew his name was Don. I thought his name was Don Frazier. And the best we came up with off the top of our heads, because we didn't have anything around, was he was born about 1930 and he died around 2016, not too long ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. So we put that in, and then we click next, and it says, well, there's a Donald Lee Frazier born in 1930 in Missouri and died in 2014 in Missouri, but we're sure that he died in California, I believe. And the parents' names don't appear to be right. So again, it looks like we're going to need to create a record. So we'll go ahead and create a record for him. And now he's in there. And we have a husband for Norma. Okay, they both have little blue boxes by them. These little blue boxes are nice. These are hints. These are possible records for these people that might help us to learn more about them and possibly fill in information that's missing, fix their names or improve their names or whatever. So we'll click on the one in front of Don. And when we open up his person page, we see over here that there's 2 marriage records for him for a Jerry Don Frazier. And so we want to look at that. So we click on the second one there. It says Jerry Don Frazier in 1953 in Jackson County, Missouri, was 19 years old, which would make him born about 1934. His mother's name was Opal Frazier, and his spouse was Norma Jean Crane. This is him. So I don't have his name right. I need Jerry in front of Don, and I'm going to need a birth date. But we'll go ahead and attach this record as a source to both him and Norma, and then we'll have to do some editing of his record because I don't have things accurate enough. So I click Review and Attach. That takes us over to our sourcing tool, the source tracker. And what it's going to allow me to do ultimately is to take this record and connect it to the person and tree that it goes to so that we can start to verify Jerry Don Frazier's record. Okay, so the left-hand side's what's on the record itself. The right-hand side's what's over in tree. And it is set Jerry Don Frazier and my Don Frazier side by side here, directly below this blue line as the primary person that we're looking at right now. And so if they appear to be the same person, even though the names are different, then we're going to be able to go ahead and say, yes, this is a record that we want to attach. We're going to go in and, do our comparison. And I'm going to put a reason in there. And I'm going to say something like, this appears to be the marriage record for Norma Jean Crane and Jerry Don Frazier. This is from Missouri, and that's where they lived. That's what I would put in that source box. And then I would click Attach, and then I'll be able to go down to Norma's, and I'll compare her record on the right-hand side with what's on the record that we're looking at, the source that we're looking at, and go through the same steps there. But the box that I had to fill in will already be filled in. I've got to remember, I change Jerry Don and change the year of birth. Okay. And I show no parents for Don. And so when I do this, I'm going to actually be adding Opal as his mother because it's going to allow me to do that. So I've got several things that I can do. Now I've attached it to Jerry Don, the Jerry Don Frazier to Don Frazier, Norma Crane to Norma Crane. I'm now at the point where I can actually try to create a new record for Mrs. Opal Frazier. So I click Add, and FamilySearch real quick tries to find if there's a duplicate. It's probably going to have trouble finding a duplicate on this because it's just a name. And in fact, most likely, Mrs. Opal Frazier was not born a Frazier. She was born something else anyway. So in fact, I actually took Frazier off of there, and I think and just left it as the name Opal. She's a female. She's got to be deceased because they were married or they were born, like Jerry was born in 1934. That means that Opal probably was born around 1914, somewhere around there, give or take a little, but surely more than 110 years ago. So I marked her as deceased and said, based on the age of the child, she should have been born shortly after 1900, somewhere around there. And then create new person. If they had found a duplicate instead of this, I would have gotten some little cards to fill in, and we'll see those later. Okay, so after I finish sourcing that document, I need to go back here and fix the Don Frazier record that I have. It does not allow me to make these changes in the record of the person when I do the source because I already had something there, and FamilySearch won't let me edit by the document, not like Ancestry. Ancestry will let you do that. FamilySearch doesn't. So I'm going to click Edit on Don Frazier, and I will then change the name to Jerry Don Frazier. And then I'll click on edit for the birth and change that to 1934. When I did that, immediately a possible duplicate popped up. And that's not surprising. Before, I had a name that probably was wrong. We know the date was wrong. And so FamilySearch is very judicious about what they allow us to see for duplicates unless we really are close, and we weren't close enough. So now I've got a duplicate to deal with. And so we'll click on that possible duplicate. And what we have is the duplicates over on the left. And the surviving person is the record of mine that we're working with. Ironically, I've got the fuller name. The duplicate record doesn't have the Dawn for a middle name. But notice it's got a full birth date. And it has the same year of death, and it has where he died, which I didn't have. Okay, notice also it's kind of interesting. Part of the reason why these didn't come up as duplicates initially was the fact that, that duplicate record is connected to his parents and siblings, and the record I have connects to his spouse and children, and one parent's name, Opal, which agrees with Opal England over here. So her last name is England. So yes, I want to continue and do this duplicate. I want to merge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to the right anything that's better than what I had, or any relationships that need to be kept. And so I moved over from that duplicate record, the full birth date and place, and I moved over the death year and place to replace my straight, just plain death year that I had. The family with the children, spouse and children, were already there. I have this incomplete set of parents. I have the Opal as a parent with no husband. And I brought over from the record on the left, the parents and the siblings for Jerry Dawn. And when I get all that done, I click continue, and I have to fill in a reason for it. And they give you some to choose from. And I said the two records are the same person. They have similar personal information between the two of them. And between the two of them, his parents and siblings and wife and child are brought together. Excuse me. So with all that, I can then click Finish Merge, and the tree keeps growing because this Frazier record, or the Jerry Frazier record that I merged, came with a pedigree. And so we're starting to fill in this pedigree. There's a hole where Opal is because I created it as just plain Opal. And that record had her name, but didn't know anything else about her at this point. But I know that there's really two Opals. And so we're going to have to do something. If you look here, you can see Fred Frazier married Opal England. That's what that other record gave us for information. All I had was the name Opal. So I know there's two of them. And it looks like there's two Jerry Dawn Fraziers. Notice that they're in dark print. That means that's the person I'm on. If you look at their ID number, it ends in XG3. There's XG3 there. There's XG3 down there. That means those are actually the same exact record. That's why they're both in dark print. They have the same number. So it's not like there's two of Jerry Dawn floating around. There's only one, but he's been associated with two sets of parents. And so I need to fix this issue. What I really need to do is merge Opal England from up above with Opal down below. And you might think the easiest thing to do would be to just add Fred Frazier to this bottom marriage, just say add spouse, and put Fred Frazier down there. But a lot of times FamilySearch won't let you do that. So really, my goal is going to be to remove Jerry Don Frazier from this family down here, remember Opal's ID number, and then go up here to Opal's record and do a merge of that Opal record with this Opal record. Okay, so the first thing I do is remove Jerry, and I do that by clicking on that little edit button, the pencil with a piece of paper. And when I click on that, the screen pops up. It says there's no father, so it says add father. Here's Opal, and here's Jerry. What I'm going to do is remove Jerry from this family. But again, I'm going to copy Opal's ID number, and I can copy it just by clicking on it and then clicking on copy ID so that I have that memorized. Because if I cut Jerry out of this family, Opal's going to disappear from my view, and I may have trouble finding her. And so I copy her right now. I could write it down on paper too if I wanted to be really safe. But I'm going to go click on remove or replace Jerry Don Frazier, give them a reason that this is a duplicate, incomplete duplicate family relationship, and take him out of there. And so this little screen pops up when you click on remove or replace. You have to click down here that you've reviewed all the relationships, sources and notes, and then you can either remove parents or replace parents. And in this case, I would just remove parents. Now, I still have two Opals. So I go to the Opal England page. Even though I know there's a duplicate, it says 0 possible duplicates. So I'm going to click on merge by ID. That's why I copied the ID. I paste the ID in the little box, and then I say continue. And now I have Opal on the left and Opal England on the right. And yes, I want to merge those. And so I'll go ahead and do the merge. There's not going to be much over here on this Opal to even bring over. The whole point is we're going to remove her out of the system. So there's only one Opal. Okay. So now Opal doesn't have any parents. It's just Opal England. And it says that she was born in Missouri about 1907. And she married in Carroll County, Missouri on the 1st of August, 1926. So I'm wondering if there's any parents for her. Because for some reason, she doesn't have any. And so I'm going to go use the power of FamilySearch and click on FamilySearch over there to see if I can find a census record. She's born in 1920 or 1907. She should be on the 1910 census. And the very first record that I see when I pull this up is Opal England, born about 1905. And censuses are going to be off a year or two. But that residence is Eugene, Carroll County, Missouri, same county she's married in. Her father's Ed England, her mother's Nellie. There's some siblings there. And what's really interesting is this little tree symbol over here. That means this record's been attached to somebody else. So that means there's actually another record out there. And I'm trying to wonder why didn't it come up as a possible duplicate. So I'm going to click on that to see what it takes me to. And it pulls up an Oral England, born in 1906. Turns out the person did a typo. And what's Opal, they typed as Oral. And that's why it's not showing up as a duplicate. because it's a different name. So I went over there and looked at it, and it's got George and Nellie, George Edward England and Nellie, where the census said it was just Ed England. And then Nellie, Nellie is Nellie Mae Atkinson. So this person's been doing some research. So I'm confident that my Opal is the same as this person, Oral, but Opal is her real name, because that's what was on the census. That's what's on some other records also. Okay, so we need to merge. So when we get ready to do the merge, and I go through the process of either, I can't remember now if it had one, if it found one or not. I'm looking real quick. No, I think I had to do a merge by ID. And so I bring them up opposite each other. And again, what we have basically is my Opal England has a spouse and children, and Oral England has parents and siblings. And when you bring them together, you're going to have a really complete record when you get through merging this and archiving Oral and getting Oral out of the out of tree. And so what it did is it brought me one more generation on the Englands, and then the Atkinson line goes back a ways. So we're really starting to build this tree. This has been the hard part, because this is a family that's not LDS, and obviously they have LDS connections because the things are there, but it hasn't really been pieced together for us very well. The rest of this tree will go really fast because you're working with two families that are longtime users. And so to put Robert's parents in there, my parents, it's just a matter of pulling up their names. And when you're looking for people that are in tree that you know are there, the single easiest way to do it, if you're looking for a husband and wife, is fill in just their names. And so that's what I did. I have Joseph James Givens, my father, and Jenny Elizabeth Hale. And you're saying, well, why will this work? Well, it's real simple. How many couples in the history of the world have been named Joseph James Givens and Jenny Elizabeth Hale? Exactly one, my parents, that I know of. And so that's all I should have to search on. So I fill in just those names. I'm supposedly adding my father because it says add father, but I'll put both of their names in here to simplify the search. To bring up what I want, click next, and up comes the page with Joseph James Givens. And this is my dad, born in 1908, passed away in 1984. He has two sets of spouses, Lois Lorraine Howard and Jenny Elizabeth Hale, my mother. He was married before he married my mother. So it's a little bit trickier than normal. Below there was another possibility, Joseph Givens and Mrs. Joseph Givens. I know that's not a duplicate because notice Mrs. Joseph Givens was born in 1764. I doubt that's my mother. So I think we can eliminate that one. And this is what we want, the top one. So I'm going to say add match. And it's going to be a little bit trickier than most times because it's going to say, okay, this guy is married twice. Which couple do you want it to be? And I say, I want the bottom one because those are my parents. And when I do that, we have doubled the tree with one name added. And if we went through and did the same thing for my wife, it would add another third to the tree. So it's not really hard once you get into the families that are LDS that have a lot of stuff in there, or families that have done a lot of work in tree, whether they're LDS or not, because then the thing grows very rapidly as soon as you can reach the deceased part of the tree. Okay, where can you go to get help? You can go to the Help Center by going up there where the little question mark is, and in the drop down, say Well, they give you, first thing they do is they give you selected topics based on the page that you're coming from. This happens to be a page of the pedigree chart. So they're giving you some suggested pedigree questions. If those don't answer your question, then you can go down to Help Center. When you click on that, you'll be able to get more help. Or you could click on Community, and you could you could chat with community members or missionaries that are over there and get answers to your questions. Or you could actually contact us, at least for the time being, while we still provide phone and chat options. Okay, the Help Center looks like this if you click on it. You have a box up there at the top that you can fill in a question, or you can go down where it says search topics and click on a topic of what you want. For the things we've been doing, it would probably be the family tree, circle there icon, or the searching records icon. And if you needed like help in memories, you would find the memory icon there, click on it, and then you'd be able to ask questions. Now, the community, if you go to it, the community will look something like this. It's actually been updated since I made this slide. But they have what they call the Q&A section. This is where you can get help by categories. Those categories happen to be the same categories that are over in the Help Center. If you click on one of them, like Family Tree, you'll be able to ask questions. You'll also be able to look at the questions other people have asked. You might be able to find something there that could help you. That Q&A section is being used to replace a lot of the missionary contacting that we used to have. They also have groups where you can go and find a group for a specific area, like for the work on the Lowrys and Fraziers, there's a group on Missouri at the community, and you could go to that group and ask questions for research help, and they would be able to help you with that. Now, the Contact Us is being pulled back. It used to be FamilySearch provided 24/7, essentially 24/7 support. With the advent of the community, though, they're transitioning away from that. And so currently for North America English speakers, which covers most of us, our phone number is still the 1-866-406-1830, April 6, 1830. Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., or Sunday, 1 to 8 p.m., and those are mountain times. So it's no longer 24/7. Don't call them after 8 p.m. our time or you're not going to get anything. They no longer accept email questions. You're encouraged to go over to the community and ask. So you can still, for the time being, until they discontinue it, contact them on the phone or through a chat. But that's being phased out from everything I've been told. Okay, so in conclusion, hopefully this gets you a feel for what you need to do. It's just a lot of steps, but they're very simple. It's not really that hard. With a little practice, you're going to find that it's really easy to build a tree for somebody. The big thing is to do the homework. So, questions. Do we have any questions?